Hi, everybody. I'm Rainbow, and welcome to Dimensional Walking. First off, before I get into today's video, I just want to tell you a couple things that I have been uh, on hiatus from the doing the videos because I had leg surgery. I had to have my right knee. I had fallen last year, and it come to find out I had been walking on a fractured leg for a couple months, not knowing it. And so finally, when they took X-rays, it showed that there was a rod in my leg from a prior surgery, and it tilted and it kind of angled out of the bone and fractured the bone. And long story short, I was in a lot of pain and I couldn't move very much. And so you might have noticed that I got a little chubby. And the reason why I got chubby is because I couldn't exercise. So I'm going to be losing weight and get on the mend from my surgery. So I just got done with that. And on a really, really sad note, the day before my surgery, we lost our orange tabby cat, Beastie, who was my boy. He was a feral kitten when I got him. And I don't know if you ever raised a feral cat, but it was a lot of work. And, anyways, I just adored him. I still adore him. I love him, but he's no longer with us. We have Pow Pow, who is the tortoiseshell cat, and she's usually sleeping. And then we have another barn cat, Rosie. But Rocky, as you may know, our red heeler Doberman died the beginning of the year. So we've lost a couple animals, so we're pretty sad about that. So, anyways, that's what's been happening in our neck of the woods. So I just wanted to kind of get that out there and let you guys know I'm going to be coming back and doing videos. Now, on today's video, what I'm going to be doing is it's a bit of a stretch. I included different things that I think have something common in them, kind of like connecting dots. It could be a stretch. You guys tell me. But what I'm going to talk to you guys about today is Andrew Basiago, who is a time traveler. Now, he's a lawyer, and he is a lawyer today, and he lives in Washington State. And I have known about Andrew Basiago for years. And as a matter of fact, he went to go see a hypnotherapist that is a friend of Michael's and mine, Gloria Hucker. And so he's has this idea about the Tesla experiments and what he was doing in teleportation. And then we're going to go into remote viewing, and then we're going to go into the assemblage point with the Carlos Castaneda book series. And the reason for all of this, I'm going to taper it in because I think dimensional walking and remote viewing and time travel and the assemblage point, all of that together has a lot to do with each other. And I think the common denominator is us, because whether you're involved in doing any of this, whether you're trying to remote view, do your dimensional walking in the dream time, if you're trying to do your clairvoyant stuff, as an empath, I think we all have this capability to be able to do all of these. So let's first get into the time travel. So with the time travel, uh, Andrew Basiago stated that he was a child participant. And what was really interesting to me about this is that he would go through a Tesla transport that would have him end up in all places, Santa Fe, New Mexico. And he had talked about him and his father going to La Fonda Hotel, which I went to for years since I was a child. So it was called Project Pegasus. And so I think that there's a connection there for me. I don't quite know what it is, but there's something there for me. I feel like I was a part of something like that, but I don't have any memory. It's just like that gut feeling of it's really strange. remembering something that you know you don't know. It's like a past life or something. I don't know. It's just when he started talking about all this stuff, it was like, oh yeah, I was a part of all that. And I'm like, no, I wasn't. And then it's just like, I don't know. At this point, I have no clue. So he was, like I said, part of a program called Project Pegasus as a child that was connected with the U.S. technical community in 1968. It was time traveling with, which was the twin of the Manhattan Project of Los Alamos, New Mexico. Andrew was a child participant in the fall of 1969. They used Tesla's teleportation vortal tunnel and time space in which someone can pass through. Nikola Tesla discovered a form of energy latent and pervasive throughout the entire universe. He called it radiant energy. Just to be clear, it's not the ball lightning that you can see in photographs. That's not what he's talking about. He kept this a secret in, I think, around 1899, something like that, or it could have been later. Um, it's called transport technology. Back to Andrew. So his dad, his name is Raymond F. Basiago, and he was a project engineer who replicated Tesla's experiments working at Thomas A. Edison Research Laboratory in West Orange, New Jersey, employed from 1956 to 1964. This is how he says the transport technology works. Andrew states that Nikola Tesla's papers in his apartment in New York were seized by the War Department upon his death on January 7th of 1943 and forwarded by the president of the time to the archives in Los Alamos, New Mexico. They are supposedly still there to this day. So he's stating, oh, and then he also said, before I get into what teleportation, what happens, he said in the 1970s they could adjust the time of the arrival of the participant via teleportation backwards or forwards. So they could go back in time or forwards in time, which I find very interesting. So he says when you array radiant energy and somebody jumps through it, their inertia opens up a vortal tunnel in time space. There is no transformation of the individual, and the individual does not have to be traveling at the speed of light when they jump through the field of radiant energy. They instead had to be traveling at a meter per second. If any part of the participant's body wasn't traveling at a meter per second, they could be dismembered. And he actually had talked about a young boy who landed in a water fountain and in water. And I guess the water was disproportionate to where his body, his feet were. And so when he landed, he lost his feet, unfortunately. So um, I'm not an expert in this, so I don't really know exactly how it all works, but that's what he says. He says the inertia was opening up the fabric of time space and they were passing through it. And in fact, because of this, there was no need for a device at the end of the journey. What they would see would be a pinprick of light at the end of the tunnel as they were going through it, and then the light would hit them quickly and they would appear thousands of miles away in different locations, depending on where they were sent to. How Tesla came to this type of energy has to do with negative energy, bending space, bending time space to the point of opening tunnels through which we can pass uninjured across great distances. So, adding to this, electricity converts space into energy, and negative electricity converts energy into space. So possibly Tesla's negative electricity turned negative electricity into space, and it's also known as a vortal tunnel. So, what's interesting for me in this is that I had actually told Michael that years back I had just landed in a room with a scientist in a white coat, and two, there was this type of, and I'm trying to explain what it is, electricity that was amped up, and it was crossing each other, and there was all this technical computer stuff. And on one side, there was a brick wall, And I was looking and I was asking the scientist what was going on. And he said, well, we're getting ready to send someone through. And I'm like, what are you talking about, someone through? Two people came and they were dressed in old Western clothes, like from the 1890s, 1870s. They jumped in to this image that was beamed onto this brick wall. They just jumped through and they just vanished. And then within about 5 to 10 minutes, they came back through. So they went back in time to see something. And whatever they saw made them very sad. Because I looked at the woman and I said, what did you see? What did you see? And she said, it was very sad. She said, there's nothing here that I want to talk about. And they were both very mournful and sad. So I don't know what they went back to see. Maybe it was an assassination, maybe it was some war or battle or something that made them very sad. But I had that experience, and it had to do with what the scientist stated was Tesla's his his paperwork. It was everything to do with the different projects that he had. And that just came out of the blue. I don't even know why I went there and I had that experience. But another experience that I had was a different time travel where you use your own body as the inertia. And so when I was in my 30s, going into my 40s, I had this same place that I would go to, and it would have FBI agents or CIA or agents who were in this program, who were government program. It was definitely a government program. And so what we would have to do is we'd have to levitate up, jump over this table, which had these artifacts on them, touch it with our hand as we're flipping over, land on our feet, tuck and roll down this hill. That somehow that inertia would get us to teleport into another location. And the hard part is getting your mind, wrapping it around, being able to levitate. As a young child, I learned to levitate with the grays, but it was not easy. I was always falling when I was teamed up with this whatever gray, and I just couldn't keep the concentration in my mind, and I would fall on my knees and my elbows, and it would really hurt. And do it a little bit, but when I was younger, probably much better. So at this point, I saw these children who this one girl who was able to do it. And I was a little embarrassed because here I am in my 30s and 40s and I still couldn't do it. But there were adults who couldn't do it either. It's not something easy to do. So, anyways, uh, and this is in the dimensional walking state. This is like literally me talking to you right now. It was this real. So I just went, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. So I went for it. I levitated up. I flew over the table. I touched this gold piece that looked like an Egyptian um, type of artifact. I don't know what it was. I touched it with the top of my hand. I flipped around, landed on my feet, and tucked and rolled and went down this hill. And I remember the feeling of the prickly feeling of actually something happening, like a creating a tunnel or whatever. And I ended at the Pentagon. I ended up at the Pentagon. I actually just poof, walked, was rolling, and then as I was rolling, I stood up right as I entered an entryway into the Pentagon, which is strange. And even though I didn't know where I was going, I knew where I was going. I don't understand that. So I saw a woman to the right who was giving who was dressed in like a guard's uniform, looking at me strangely because I'm sure I had twigs and leaves in my hair, and I saw a little coffee stand to my left, and I saw some painting that was 'cause I worked in art galleries, so I always look at the artwork. So I was really happy because I didn't care how dirty and messy and grungy I looked. I actually did something I wasn't able to do. Is that the same thing? What is it in our minds that makes us to be able to do stuff like this? I don't know. But let's talk about remote viewing. So, remote viewing, the term Remote viewing was coined by Stanford physicists, also called psychic time travel. So, use your mind to go do it. You don't have to have your body with you. The practice of seeking impressions about a distant or unseen subject, purportedly sensing with the mind, otherwise known as extrasensory perception, or ESP. Seeing remote or hidden objects clairvoyantly with the inner eye or alleged out of the body travel. It's also the ability to acquire accurate information about a distant or non local place, person, or event without using your physical senses or any other obvious means. What's the difference between remote viewing um, and going to these locations using Tesla's type of, um, his different types of programs that he was doing, his ability to do what he did, but what was it that I did that I was trained to do? So I created the tunnel. I didn't use Tesla's technology for it. I was able to do it. We were trained to do it from the time we were children. And I was able to finally do it, I think, late 30s or early 40s. So remote viewing should not be that hard for me if I was able to go ahead and do this other thing that I was taught. I don't know, but I do know the common denominator here is us, what we're able to do. So anyway, so now next I want to go to the assemblage point because Carlos Castaneda books were pretty huge in the day. And there were some really good teachings by Don Juan. And I think if you haven't read the series, just you should do it because there's something for everybody. It's pretty intense, but I would say that really at this point it's very similar to Tesla's technology and remote viewing. It's to me not really much different because you're using your dream body, you're using your mind, your extrasensory perception, you're kind of using tools in order to work in a way to where you can actually do things outside of the physical body or sometimes take the physical body with you you know so just so you don't know, if you don't know what an assemblage point is, here is what it is. The assemblage point of a man or woman is located high up, three-fourths of the way towards the top of the egg on the surface of the cocoon. When a nawa presses on that point of intense luminosity, the point moves into the disk like a cheddar cheese. Heightened awareness comes about when the intense glow of the assemblage point lights up dormant emanations way inside the disk of cheddar cheese. So it's like awakening up those dark. And my analogy of this is really more like if you look at us like there's a mansion inside of us. There's doors that have never been opened. And so what the assemblage point does when you have that awareness is it opens up those locked doors that you didn't know were there. To see the glow of the assemblage point moving inside that disk gives a feeling that it is shifting towards the left on the surface of the cocoon. So basically, the awareness of who we are is like a cocoon. And it's working within that cocoon to help us to be able to gain a higher sense of awareness, and to be able to travel those dimensional places with this awareness of who we are. It's our soul, a source energy. The next truth is that perception takes place, he went on, because there is in each of us an agent called the assemblage point that selects internal and external emanations for alignment. And this basically means when you can do it when during meditation. I suck at meditation. I have a very talkative brain. That's kind of how I work out the stress of my day. But you can do it within a meditation, or if you do, Michael and I have done our bowls. We've gone up to the hill and just um, meditated a bit with the bowls. Whatever you can to kind of get yourself centered is important. And it says here the particular alignment that we perceive as the world is the product of the specific spot where our assemblage point is located on our cocoon. So different perspectives of life. When you become more awake and aware, you see things more clearly. And I think that you have the ability to maneuver through life with more ease when you understand what exactly it is that you're looking at and understanding how you relate and connect to what's outside of you. He also said that the old seers discovered that the assemblage point is not in the physical body, but in the luminous shell in the cocoon itself. The Nawa identifies that spot by its intense luminosity and pushes it rather than striking it. The force of the push creates a dent in the cocoon, and it is felt like a blow to the right shoulder blade, blow that knocks all the air out of the lungs. And so, what I can attest to that is with some of the work that I did as a child, I I had experiences where I was pushed, and maybe in some cases a little beyond what I should have been pushed. And I can attest to this. I've felt this before, where it feels like it's a blow, where it feels like you can't get your breath. Um, so the important thing to understand here with what he's saying is that when someone else is helping you gain your heightened state of awareness, they're going to push parts of you that make it very uncomfortable, which is kind of what happened to me up until the point when I was able to just kind of levitate and just do what they asked me to do in my late 30s or early 40s. It's not something comfortable until you make it comfortable, until you understand how to use this ability and what to do with it. Let's see. Carlos asked, "Are there different types of dents?" Because that means that different the different medicine men who are helping different people, which happened to me too, with dimensional walking pushing me forward. It did make a huge difference on how I was pushed into my heightened state of awareness. He says there are only two types, he responded. One is concavity, and the other is crevice, which has a distinct effect. The concavity, probably pronouncing that wrong, but I'm saying it that way anyways, is a temporary feature and produces a temporary shift. But the crevice is a profound and permanent feature of the cocoon and produces a permanent shift. So that can happen. I mean, you can get pushed to the point to where you kind of you stay in that heightened state of awareness, which makes it really nice. He went on to explain that a state of heightened awareness is seen not only as a glow that goes deeper inside the egg-like shape of human beings, but also as a more intense glow on the surface of the cocoon. Yet it is nothing in comparison to the glow produced by a state of total awareness, which is seen as a burst of incandescence in the entire luminous egg. It is an explosion of light of such magnitude that the boundaries of the shell are diffused and the inside emanations extend themselves beyond anything imaginable. The assemblage point of man appears around a definite area of the cocoon because the eagle commands it, he said, but the precise spot is determined by habit, by repetitious acts. First, we learn that it can be placed there, and then we ourselves command it to be there. Our command becomes the eagle's command, and that point is fixated at that spot. Consider this very carefully. Our command becomes the eagle's command. The old seers paid dearly for that finding. We'll come back to that later on. Well, if you read the book, you will. So, the reason why I brought all of these together, kind of talked about all of them, is because I think they're all connected to each other. I think whether you do remote viewing, whether you do dimensional walking, whether you understand the assemblage point, whether you do time travel, travel portation, um, I think it's important to know that the common denominator is our essence of who we are. I mean, no matter at certain points, you have your body that you take with you, which I think is kind of pretty cool. Or you go with your mind. Like in remote viewing, you can kind of extend out there. The only thing that happens is that when you do leave your body is vulnerable. So in the time travel aspect, you take all of you with you, which is pretty cool. So you got to have a safety net, somewhere safe if you do any of the other things that I'm talking about. Like with dimensional walking, when I do it at night, you know, I I think it's more important for me to have that safety net of being in my own bed, of having Michael next to me, of having the safety of knowing that the doors are locked. Um, just knowing that there's things that make me feel safe. It may not mean that, I couldn't get abducted and they can just pull me through the ceiling or whatever. But what I'm saying is that if you're going to be doing work on your own, just make sure that you have your little safety nets and you kind of understand what you're going for. A lot of people are really awakening up now, and and that's fine. That's great. But then don't scare yourself silly. And there's a price to pay for being more aware. Heightened state of awareness that comes at a price, and you have to understand that even though it's fantastic and wonderful to be able to do that, the important thing is to understand what is the steady pace to take rather than jumping off the cliff and just landing where you may. You don't want to do that. So, in any of this, I think this year I'm going to really try to get more into that dimensional walking aspect of what I do. I'm interested in that remote viewing. I want to learn more about it, see if I can extend myself out there because as an empath, I can go places and already feel stuff. And I'm not unique. There's many of you watching who are members, who are subscribers who can do the same thing. So I'm not unique in any way. So all of us together can probably add to, the different scenarios of what can happen with any of this. So I just mentioned a few things that I did as a child. So think about it and tell me, you know, kind of comment below and see if you have anything to say or not. I thought I'd just pull these all together just to see kind of how they play out. Tell me what you think. So I hope you are all doing well and you're having a good start to our summer. And I guess I will see you in the next video. Don't know what it's going to be about, but I'll figure something out. So thank you for watching. Take care, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.